PR's Top Pros Talk, breaking down impactful PR behaviors, featuring Ethan Rasiel, CEO of Lightspeed PR Marketing. And here's your host, Doug Simon.
Ethan, you say there are 5 behaviors that PR can impact. What are they?
Great question. So 5, I actually have a mnemonic for it, PIPAT. So it's purchase, invest, partner, apply, and tell others.
Great. Now, I think a lot of people are familiar with the idea of motivating people to purchase. What are some of the approaches that you take with the idea of changing those behaviors in mind?
So when we talk about purchase, it's all about creating a sense of urgency, because buying my product in 6 months is only helpful to that future me, but I need it to help my client or myself today. So we want to create a sense of urgency. That could be that there's a new version. It could be that there's a discount. It could be that we want to really motivate you to save the environment, which is about to go over a cliff. But some sort of sense of urgency is important for purchase.
Yeah. And you talk about for investors, is that the same type of urgency? Sometimes people might recoil a bit if they're feeling too much pressure.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it's the opposite. So when we talk about motivating investors, we don't want people to feel like they're being rushed into anything, because they want to feel that that's a long-term investment. There, we're more talking about company leadership and that cult of personality and the long-term vision and why that the company is properly positioned to be successful over a long period of time.
So what's the next initial that makes up the acronym?
So then we're back to P. So that's partnership. Partner with the company. So that could be you want to identify resellers or a company to enter a joint venture. That one is similar in a lot of ways to the investor. Again, we're talking about communicating the leadership of the company and the long-term vision there.
Great. Now you've got 2 more left. Which one do you want to take first?
The next one is apply. So we're talking about applying for a job. When my clients are out there promoting their company, a lot of times they're doing it because they want talent. Finding quality talent is one of the most difficult things for any company. You want to motivate people to come and join you and fill out a job application. And that's again, a different approach. So it's not about the sense of urgency, and it's not so much about the personality or the vision of the leadership. That is about saving the world. That's about the social good. So come and join this company and you can feel good about yourself. And if we can tell that story, you'll get a bunch of job applications.
Let's say the nature of your business, it isn't a social bad, but it's more about a value neutral kind of thing. What are some of the ways you can sort of create that excitement for people to want to be a part of it? Since, to your point, what people, especially younger people, are looking for might be changing.
So we want to showcase a wide range of gender and LGBTQ and all that stuff, and ages as well, and where the company is based, being international versus just US. People are interested in that larger kind of footprint for their companies.
I guess we'll be expanding internationally after we finish doing this interview based on that input. What's the final behavior?
So the final behavior is to tell others. And that's another one that's often overlooked. But even if the only behavior that you take is to tell somebody else, that's a huge win. And that could be literally telling somebody offline, just telling your friend or a family member. It could be a social post or a share. But any kind of forwarding that message is going to be a huge value to your company.
Yeah, and that's been a huge part of the explosion in social media and its use for communication purposes, because that is, in fact, telling others in your circle, which can be the most persuasive. So another point is personality of a company that you talk about. How can communications help define that?
The individual leadership team, they have their personality. The CEO has a personality, and the CMO and all the execs have their own personalities, but the company itself needs to have a personality. One of my favorite examples is MailChimp. If you go to MailChimp and you use that for maybe your email campaign, you'll see that they have that monkey that's there, and it's got a sense of humor. And when you're interacting with it, even when you're launching a campaign, it's a little bit whimsical, just a little. It's still about work, but there's that whimsy there, and that's the personality that company has. And every company, you need to decide Are you bold? Are you confident? It's really important for us at Lightspeed when we have a new client is walking them through creating that personality of the brand.
How important is that to have the CEO define sort of the brand identity or be part of it?
I would say part of it, yes. Define it fully, no. Obviously, there have been many, we could talk about Disney on down, companies that are defined by a founder. But eventually, you want to start to get away from that, and you want it to be sustainable beyond that person. And hopefully, you, Doug, one day you get to take a break and let somebody else keep the company going. Apple is a company that to this day is defined by Steve Jobs, and that's really been to its detriment at this point. He's been gone for more than 10 years, and people still think that, well, the company's never been as great since Jobs left. We want the company to stand apart from that founder.
Yeah, and even if the leader, doesn't totally define what the company is about, you still want them to be visible. We're seeing a dramatic increase in the satellite tours that we do where companies put forward their CEO or other top leaders. What are some ways to make sure the leader is visible and still supporting the brand identity?
Yeah, so that's different. So visibility is key. So, and I was talking about the brand. We don't want the brand to be fully defined by the founders or the leadership, but we do want that leadership team to have, as long as they're there, to have a significant presence. And it can be, like you just mentioned, SMT. It could be through speaking at trade shows. It could be through having a video of yourself on the website. I mean, that sounds obvious, right? But so many of the companies that I speak to, you go to the website, the leadership team's not even there. And there's an About Us section, and it just talks about that we have 200 people, but the CEO is not even there. And so we want to make sure that that person is present on social media, on the website, conferences, all those channels.
Sometimes your muscle memory can be a detriment if you're remembering ways to communicate things that are no longer appropriate or logical or moving the brand forward. So how do you break down the muscle memory in conversations?
Let me give you an example of how muscle memory can work against you. And that is, you're the CEO of a tech startup, and you spend all day long talking to engineers and suppliers and manufacturers about chips and speeds and feeds, the real deep tech of it. And that's great. And then all of a sudden, you need to get on the phone with a journalist who doesn't know anything about your company, or a partner, or an investor, or any of those audiences that I talked about when I talked about the 5 behaviors. And all of a sudden, your tech jargon doesn't make sense because those people don't know your company like you do. And you fall into the what I call the muscle memory, the bad habits of the shorthand and the jargon that people don't understand. The way you break it is by creating new muscle memory. You just have to practice makes perfect, and you have to give interviews. We'll do mock interviews where we will say, what are you talking about? I don't understand that. And sorry, can I have permission to interrupt, and just cut them off until they've learned new muscle memory and they can speak in plain English.
Great. Well, you've given people a lot of memories to make use of to advance their careers. Obvious why you're so successful, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. It's a pleasure.